Hello and welcome to Wired In. I'm Diana Galata with Hampton City Schools. I'm very excited today to have Miss Ann Cherry, Vice Chair of our board. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So let's talk about your background, because you have a lot of experience with our school system prior to retiring. So talk to us a little bit about where you grew up and your background of your career prior to retiring.
Sure, I'll be glad to. Actually, I am a native of Hampton City Schools, if you will. I graduated from Phoenix High School, and that's the Phoenix that's now on that LaSalle Avenue, not the Phoenix that was on Hampton University campus, okay? And I was fortunate enough to have in my class, in my graduating class, another member of the school board, Butch Harper. Okay. So he and I came out the same year at Phoenix. I ended up attending college at West Virginia State. And then I went on and got my master's, but I really got my master's while I was working with the city of Hampton. So after graduating from West Virginia, I had decided that I was going to go to Chicago and do all of this advertising piece and just be the next advertising star. And a friend of mine from Williamsburg, Ben Hunter actually, said, my name was Ann Bandy, and they called me Andy Bandy.
Okay.
So he said, Andy Bandy, I think you should go home to Hampton. And I said, why? He said, because if you go to Chicago and you do well, nobody cares. But if you go back home, you can be an inspiration for young people. So I came home, and I had an aunt of mine who said, they're building something called the Coliseum. I bet you can get a job there. And I was like, So I found out that the Coliseum was being built. And at that time, Wendell White was the assistant city manager for Hampton. I talked to him. He had gone to West Virginia. We had an instant connection. And I started working in conventions and tourism as an administrative assistant in like 3-4 weeks right out of college. Andy Greenwell was my boss, who most of the people in this community know. But our office, Diana, was that geodesic dome that's on Mercury, where all the planes are.
Oh, yeah.
That was conventions and tourism.
Okay.
So I went from there, and I ended up later on becoming the director of conventions and tourism for the city of Hampton. I also was director of university relations for Hampton University, and I was what they call, I don't know if they still call it that, newspapers and education coordinator for the Daily Press. So I've had a real healthy career, if you will, especially in this area. And while I was working at the Daily Press, the superintendent at that time, Dr. Billy Kennedy, talked to me about becoming the PR person because Jerry Sanford was retiring, and I had done some things with the school division just from a marketing standpoint, just to help out and keep my skills sharpened. And I ended up working there and stayed for 17 years. Wrote a book called How to Get Along, Learning to Get Along. It was on conflict resolution, and it was published by the American Association of School Administrators. So I had a very fruitful career.
So it's funny that you came back, because many of us who are in school administration say, okay, when we're retiring, we're not coming back. We're going to go and travel and so on. But you came back to run for the school board, and tell us why you wanted to be on the school board.
Well, now that's interesting, because my plans weren't to run for the school board. I was very happy, as I tell many of my friends, sitting home watching Gunsmoke. I had no problem. But there were some issues that had begun to bubble up in Hampton City Schools that I felt passionate about. So not only was I in the division for 17 years, I was on the administrative team, and of course, as you know, I was head of marketing and PR. So I think once you get into a situation like that, and me being a native here, it's still your school division. So when those things bubbled up, I began to go to school board meetings and address them. Everything from the custodians, I was concerned about that, how we were compensating people, and accreditation. I mean, we, in my opinion, we weren't going in the right direction. So I would address those issues, but just from the standpoint of being a citizen. So then when school board elections came or were on the horizon, I started hearing from different people in the community. You should run for school board. And I was like, no, I shouldn't. And I was pretty comfortable with just that response until Dr. Mary Christian called me one day to her home. I should have known. And she talked about me running for school board, and she said that she felt that I could make a difference because of the experiences that I'd had, not only in Hampton City Schools, but across this community. And I said to her that I was very pleased that she thought I could be an asset on the board, but I really was not interested. And Diana, she looked at me and she said, with the knowledge that you have, the insight you have, the passion that you have, for you not to run is selfish. And I told her I'd been called a lot of things in my life, but selfish wasn't one of them. So I pondered it and I told her, let me talk to my husband, because our life had changed with me being retired, and in a good way. And she said, okay, discuss it with your husband and let me know. And before I could discuss it with him, he came home that evening and said, Dr. Christian called me and wants me at her house. So I knew what it was, and then I talked to some other people and I decided, you know, if not now, when? If not me, who? And I do love this school division. So I decided to run.
So tell us what you like best about being on the Hampton School Board.
I think what I like best is the fact that people in the community feel that they can come to me, that if they have an issue, they can give me a call or they can just ask a question, because so many people don't have a connection with the board, as you would imagine, or with the superintendent or with the administration. And I think what we have to realize is that most of the parents who have children in our school probably have not been in a school in 10, 12 years.
Right.
So it's almost overwhelming when they do. So I feel like there's a segment of the community who may not have had the inroads to board members, that they feel comfortable, you know, giving me a call, asking questions, and I can in turn find out information or steer them in the right direction and say, this is who you need to call. So I think that's the best part, being accessible to citizens in this community.
That's great. And that really helps us from a communication standpoint, that two-way engagement.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. So like many school divisions across the country, we face our challenges.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about a few of the challenges that you feel like that we're facing and what we're doing to overcome those.
Well, I think the challenges in Hampton City Schools are probably the challenges of most public schools across the nation. I don't think we're unique with our challenges. I think parental involvement is a big piece. You have parents who want to be involved, who for whatever reasons are not able to be involved as, say, my mom was involved. I remember when I was in school, I had a problem with my teacher, and I was telling my mom she just doesn't pay attention to me. And my mom was an administrator at Fort Eustis at that time, but she took off and came to my class and sat in the back just to assess the situation. You don't have a lot of that today, and there are myriad reasons why you don't. But I do feel that parental involvement is key, and I don't think that parental involvement should just be someone showing up at a PTA meeting or bringing cookies to the classroom. I think when a parent, especially let's take a single parent, can have her child ready for school, get that child breakfast, get that child on the bus safely, that's parental involvement as well.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I think we tend to put parental involvement in a box. But I do think we need to increase that and let parents know how they can be helpful. But the way to do that is to become a welcoming school division. And you and I and others have talked about that need for customer service, great customer service. Because, as I said before, it's overwhelming sometimes to parents. They walk into school, they have an issue, and let's say, now this doesn't happen in Hampton, but let's say the secretary's at the desk, she's not acknowledging the parent, or there's a call to be made and it's not returned. Those bring bad vibes to parents. And so they give you this hands-off approach. They love their children because they're entrusting us with their most precious product. But it's difficult for them to play a role as well.
So I know that you said earlier you love Hampton City Schools, and certainly you grew up here and you worked for Hampton City Schools, but tell us what you think are some of the best strengths of our school division.
Well, I think one of the things, Hampton is is small enough, the city of Hampton is small enough to have good partnerships like we have with the city of Hampton. You and I both have been to INSPA, the National School Public Relations Association, where we meet many people from across the country. And I'm sure you've heard, as I've heard, every school division doesn't have a warm and welcoming and trusting relationship with their local city government. We have that in Hampton. And that's going to help us help teachers and help students, I feel. I think another strength is, right now, we've got a superintendent who is laser focused, and he's got a team that is behind him in that focus. So much so that we're at a point now, and I know I'm talking to the choir, but we're at a point now where we've had more schools fully accredited than, 4 or 5 years. And that the achievement gap is virtually non-existent when you look at the data. So I think that's another strength that we should be proud of as a community, and keep that message going. Because the needle is moving, but we're not finished.
No, we still have a lot of work to do. So before we close, I'd like to ask you why the vice chair position, why that is something that you were interested in.
That's interesting because I wasn't interested in that.
Okay.
I didn't apply for it. I didn't rally for it. I didn't call one school board member and say I want to be vice chair, because I didn't. When it became clear to me that Mr. Samuels was going to be the chair, I had several members on the board to call me and say, including Mr. Samuels, the vice chair must be in step with the chair in terms of vision. The vice chair also should be someone who can say, time out, Mr. Chair, I think what we need to do is reassess. And from the calls that I got, people said to me, with the experience you've had in this city, the experience you've had as an administrator in the school division, and you being able to communicate as well as you do, we feel that you would be a good vice chair for Mr. Samuels. Because when we think about it, the vice chair is just a title. It's only one vote, and the only thing you get to do is take over for the chair when he or she is not available.
Right.
But at the same time, there needs to be a cohesion in terms of vision. I know he is very strong on that grade 3 elementary academic piece. So am I. So when we, when we talk about it, it ends up, I'm able to share some other insights with him as he looks at ways to move the board forward. And I can tell you, every member of the board brings something different to the table. That's the one thing I love. You take Mr. Kilgore, he's your policy guy. You look at Ms. Henry, she knows all things high school. And interestingly enough, Mr. Samuel said to me the other day, he said, you know, Ann, you and I can be out at myriad events 24/7, but yet Mr. Harper knows more about what's going on in this division, in this community, than we do. So he's an asset because he's been here so long, and on the board 20 plus years. People trust him, they call him, and he's able to get things done. And Mr. Harper said to me just yesterday, and when we're on the board, we cannot be about photo ops. We have to be about change. So even though we graduate at the same time, he's like the daddy of the school board, so I listen to him when he talks, yes. So.
Well, and he's very well networked through the community, and like you said,
Exactly.
people call him, and he's very involved that way.
Right.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'm so glad that you were able to come, and I thought I knew a lot about you, but I learned even more about you, and I think our viewers did as well. So maybe in a year or so, you'd like to come back and share your experiences with us.
I would. I think the thing you and I both have in common is we love to talk.
Yes.
So I'd be happy to come back on your show.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
And thank you for watching Wired In. Have a great week.